Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking one of the most fascinating plot twists in modern business history, Uber's shocking departure from Southeast Asia. I mean, picture this, right? You have one of the world's absolute most powerful tech giants. They storm into a booming market with incredibly aggressive plans, only to suddenly just pack up, sell out, and walk away. It's crazy. So what exactly happened here? Was this just an unmitigated disaster for Uber, or was it actually a masterstroke of strategic preservation? Well, we are going to dive deep into the intensely competitive platform war between Uber and local champion Grab, and we'll uncover why winning a market, surprisingly enough, isn't always the smartest move.
This whole situation raises a really massive question for us to think about. Is leaving a market always a failure? You know, in the corporate world, and honestly, just in life in general, we're so conditioned to treat expansion as the ultimate metric of success. We want more countries, more users, more growth, a bigger market share, so naturally, withdrawing from a high-growth region usually looks like total defeat. It looks like you've been beaten, outsmarted, and run out of town. But we really need to challenge that assumption today because things aren't always what they seem.
There's an old strategic saying, sometimes retreat is survival. And as we'll uncover in this case study, leaving a massive market isn't necessarily a defeat at all. In fact, sometimes stepping back is a highly calculated, brilliant maneuver designed to stop catastrophic financial damage and literally protect a company's broader, long-term global positioning. It's like sacrificing a piece in chess to save the king. Let's see exactly how Uber navigated this incredible tightrope.
All right, let's set the stage with Act 1, the invasion, and take a look at the Southeast Asia prize.
Southeast Asia wasn't just some random target on a map. It was a booming, cash-rich battlefield that was totally ripe for the taking. Just imagine the scene for a second. You've got rapid urbanization bringing millions of people into crowded, chaotic cities. And these cities had completely fragmented, inconsistent, and often inefficient traditional transport systems. People desperately needed a better way to get around. Combine that with skyrocketing smartphone adoption across the region and a rapidly expanding middle class, and boom, you have a market that Uber viewed as an absolutely critical puzzle piece for their total global dominance. It was a total gold rush.
Which brings us to Act 2, the battlefield. It was the ultimate showdown of global scale versus local focus.
Uber wasn't exactly marching into an empty arena here. Waiting for them in the wings was Grab, a scrappy, highly adapted local champion born right there in the region. And this wasn't just a basic battle of two mobile apps, it was a fundamental clash of business philosophies. Uber leaned heavily on its massive global scale and standardized tech. Their mindset was essentially, hey, this worked perfectly in New York and London, so it's going to work exactly the same way in Jakarta or Manila. Grab, however, they dug deep into the trenches with intense regional adaptation. They didn't have Uber's massive global footprint, sure, but man, they had an undeniable home field advantage.
Grab intimately understood the local consumer in a way a massive global giant sitting in Silicon Valley simply couldn't. Here's a perfect example. While Uber's global model aggressively demanded that users link a credit card, Grab recognized a fundamental reality on the ground. Millions of Southeast Asians still ran their lives entirely on physical cash. By instantly adapting and allowing cash payments for rides, Grab easily won over huge segments of the population that Uber's standardized app literally just locked out. It's a small change, but a real game changer.
And this brings us to a really vital concept: platform ecosystems. Grab recognized super early on that they weren't just coding software. They were building a living, breathing ecosystem. To them, success meant forging deep, trusting relationships with drivers, earning the absolute loyalty of customers, carefully navigating extremely complex regional regulators, and integrating directly with local infrastructure. Grab essentially aligned itself entirely with the regional identity, which made Uber's traditional copy-and-paste global expansion incredibly difficult to pull off.
So let's jump into Act 3, the breaking point, and look at the real cost of this warfare.
When an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, you get a dangerously destructive cycle. Both of these giants basically tried to literally buy the market. They were heavily subsidizing rides to make them dirt cheap for customers, while simultaneously throwing staggering cash incentives at drivers to get them on their app. And sure, this aggressive spending strategy built massive scale and really impressive top-line growth. But beneath the surface, it rapidly drained their cash reserves, leading to completely unsustainable economics. Both companies were just burning millions and millions of dollars trying to outlast the other. It was an incredibly expensive, very stressful game of chicken. The tension really peaked in the Uber boardroom as leadership faced an existential choice. Bleed cash or back down? Put yourself in their shoes for a second. Do you continue burning eye-watering amounts of money fighting an entrenched local competitor who already has a massive head start and home field advantage? Or do you swallow your pride, stop the bleeding right now, and redirect those vital resources to other global markets where you actually dominate?
And that leads us to Act 4, the truce, and a highly strategic surrender.
So, Uber decided to do the absolutely unthinkable for a hyper-growth tech giant. They packed up and sold their Southeast Asian operations entirely to Grab. Wow! But wait a minute, here's where the story gets really fascinating. Because they didn't just walk away empty-handed with their tails between their legs. Not at all. Uber negotiated a brilliant deal, shifting from being a direct competitor to becoming a massive equity investor in Grab itself. This move completely reframes what it actually means to quit a market.
The strategic pragmatism of this deal is honestly remarkable. Before the deal, think about it. Uber was locked in direct, day-to-day warfare, suffering a massive financial cash burn for a really uncertain, distant payoff. But by taking that equity stake instead, Uber massively reduced their operational stress, they stopped the daily bleeding of cash, yet, and here's the genius part, they maintained highly lucrative exposure to the region's future growth. Whenever Grab succeeds, Uber still wins. They transformed a draining, costly battle into a brilliant, passive financial investment. Finally, let's look at Act 5. The moral of the story, and the bigger strategic lesson we can all take away.
Uber's exit teaches us some really critical lessons. First, global scale absolutely cannot blindly replicate itself and expect to automatically defeat deep local expertise. Localization is vital. This case also proves that having an emotional attachment to winning a specific market can absolutely destroy a company if the underlying economics just don't make sense anymore. A disciplined, strategic withdrawal is sometimes exactly what you need to protect your long-term capital and your global positioning. Simply put, just because you have the sheer capability to expand, it definitely doesn't mean you have a competitive advantage when you actually get there.
Ultimately, Uber's highly calculated strategic retreat leaves us with a really profound debate. In an incredibly diverse world, can one standardized tech platform truly dominate the globe? Or will agile, culturally adapted local champions always hold the upper hand? Knowing when to walk away from the battlefield is just as important as knowing how to fight. So think about that the next time you open an app on your phone to grab a ride or order food, and ask yourself, is the global giant really serving your neighborhood, or is the local champion quietly winning the war?